Volatility never stops. Now to this week's historic vote on impeachment. Let's bring in our political panel of Genevieve Wood, senior advisor and spokesperson for the Heritage Foundation, and up in New York is Basil Smikle, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party. All right, Genevieve, I'll start with you. In terms of impeachment, in terms of the Senate, is Leader McConnell going to be able to strike a deal on rules with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer?
Well, they're going to have to, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Republicans are in charge in the Senate. So I think Senator McConnell, it's going to go the way that he wants it to go. He's going to have to bring some of the Democrats along, but I think you're going to see McConnell leading the charge here.
Basil, to flip that question, Wednesday is when we're anticipating this historic vote in the House of Representatives on impeachment. I've got my eye on 31 members, 31 Democrats who flipped the 2016 congressional districts that went for President Trump and then were able to win them for Democrats. How is this going to play in those 31 districts?
Well, it's going to be difficult for a lot of those members. If you remember when Democrats ran in 2018, we ran these very hyper-local races, tried very hard not to nationalize these races, and that's what helped us take back the House. It's going to be very difficult to do that when all of these members have to take a formal vote for or against impeachment. So I think it's going to behoove all of those 31 members, for example, to pivot very quickly back to a policy discussion when they're in their individual districts. But it's not something that they're really going to be able to navigate away from. They're going to have to deal with it in some way, shape, or form. And I expected that a few members would vote against impeachment. And I think Nancy Pelosi is anticipating that as well. You're not going to see as hard a line on the Democratic side as you have on the Republican side. But that's okay. I think at the end of the day, that's going to be okay to keep the majority held.
We're just getting word that Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer will be holding a news conference at 2 p.m. Eastern, so maybe we'll hear more at that point. What happens to legislation? So while this is going on, do we get the signature of the USMCA?
Yeah, I think we do, and I think we actually have to, because that is one of the big policy positions that Democrats can take some credit for. There's some discussion also about paid family leave, which is very, very important for a lot of these members. So yes, I think we do get that deal. I think we have to pivot very quickly back to policy.
What happens to senators that are campaigning? So obviously January is going to be a really busy month for those. Right. And before we get to the polls now and what's actually happening, what do those senators do, Basil?
Well, you know, it's going to be interesting because you've got Cory Booker is not on the debate stage, for example. Kamala Harris is not running anymore, but you've got people like Michael Bennet, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders. This is going to become a substantial part of their talking points as we get into this primary season. They will have to come away from the field considerably, but I suspect they'll be just as strong when they go back out there and talk about why they had to vote the way they did to get rid of this president, even if at the end of the day he doesn't get convicted.
Then I'll be headed out to LA later this week for continuing coverage of that debate. But Genevieve, I want to stick with impeachment for a second. In terms of the Republicans, Senator Susan Collins, Senator Mitt Romney, you know this, all of the attention is going to be on some of those Republicans in the Senate, in the upper chamber, who have been very critical of President Trump and how he's handled this impeachment. Is there room in the Republican Party for a Republican senator to vote to convict President Trump?
I think it'd be very difficult for them to explain that vote to most of their constituents. Look, you can not like the way things have been handled, but the question is, do you think it reaches the level of impeachment, and do you think he should be convicted? And I think that's the question that Senator Collins and Mitt Romney, who may not like some of the way that the president has handled the situation, they may not like it, but can they go to the level of impeachment? I don't think you're going to get there. And look, to this whole thing, I think the Democrats eventually would like some of this to go away, because as you were just discussing, many of their candidates are going to be taken out of the Senate if the Senate goes on with a full trial, which I think the president has said he would like, because he wants to try to clear his name on this and really show that he did nothing wrong. So it's going to be interesting to see if they go full blown with the trial, or if they go the other direction, which Lindsey Graham wants to do, of saying, let's just get rid of it altogether. That's going to have a big impact, I think, on Democrats in many ways, even more so than Republicans.